Welcome into the NFL opening line report, week number 8. I am Drew Martin alongside Teddy Covers as we are getting you ready for these opening lines in week 8. We got 2 Monday nighters we're going to hit at the top, the Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night all coming your way. Let us know in the comments below where you agree, where you disagree. Your NFL picks all are welcome. Without further ado, happy Monday morning to you, Teddy. Welcome on in, buddy.
Drew, as soon as you had that intonation perfect this morning, that welcome in. Yeah, like when you say it just the right way, it makes the hair on my neck stand up. It makes me all excited. I'm like looking forward to the next week. It's been a good NFL run the last the month or so. I'm 75% over the last 4 weeks in the NFL, coming off a perfect Sunday, so I'm feeling pretty good right now. But you know how it is, Drew. This is a humbling business. It's a humbling league. You can be in a hot streak, and then boom, as soon as you start working, it disappears in an instant. So we'll see if we can keep it going this week off a real good stretch over the last 4 weeks in the NFL. I am in play on Monday Night Football tonight. And it's worth noting, if you watched last week's show, I'm not going to go through my powering numbers, but if you just paid attention to what my powering numbers were versus the market numbers, you'll know who I have tonight. So you can go back and look at last week's show.
There you go, guys. And yeah, huge shout out to everybody commenting, everybody watching on last week, guys, as we got 2 Monday Night Football games steady tonight. I'll tee them up quickly for you. Baltimore at Tampa Bay seems to be the marquee matchup, at least nationally televised matchup. -3 in the hook. That is the Ravens as the road favorite. 50 the total in Raymond James. And then 45 minutes later, 6 o'clock Pacific, we get the LA Chargers and Arizona Cardinals. 44 being the total, with the Bolts short road favorites, -1 at most shops. Anything on the back-to-back Monday nighters tonight before we get into Thursday night football here, TC?
So we're seeing market support right now for Baltimore and over. 3.5 the prevailing number. I'm seeing 3.5 juiced. I'm seeing 4s popping up for Baltimore. If you like the Ravens or the over, there's a little bit of urgency to get to the betting window. For the second game, not so much. We've seen the Chargers mostly -1. There are some 1.5s out there. I am seeing a little bit of support for the Chargers in the market today, but the early money came for Arizona. I don't think LA is going to get a whole lot higher than the current -1, -1.5. In the -115, -20 range on the money line, -125 if you don't shop around. The total in that game has been bet up a little bit to 44. I'm not anticipating any further movement on that either. So the 2 Monday night games tonight, we're seeing Baltimore money. We're seeing over money in that game. We're seeing a little bit of Chargers money. But the money at the open came the other way for the Chargers against Arizona. We have seen since the opener, there's been more money for Arizona than there has been for LA.
Getting the Week 8 slate kicked off right now. NFL opening line report style Thursday, October 24th. We get the Minnesota Vikings and the LA Rams. 5:15 Pacific kick here. -3. That's the Vikings as the road favorite. 48 and a hook being the total here, Teddy. Vikings at Rams to kick off the Week 8 slate.
Yeah, I just did a big game breakdown on this on Wager Talk today. Just a few moments earlier. I'll tweet that out a little bit later in the day. But certainly my lean here is towards LA, like we do with all the games. And of course, there's no buys this week, so we have all 16 games to get through, all 32 teams in action this week. But I'm going to give you 4 sets of point spreads. The first one is the look-ahead line. This is a bettable game for these 2 teams last week, so we can see how much the 1 week has affected the point spread. I'm going to give you my powering number. That's a straight powering number. It doesn't factor in situations, but Team A minus Team B, factor in the home field. There's my powering number. I'm going to give the opening numbers from last night, and I use a consensus opener. I track 5 different books, and I consider what my consensus is. And then we'll talk about where the money has moved since the opener, the current point spread for all of these ball games. So with Minnesota and LA, look ahead line, Minnesota -3. My powering number, Minnesota -3. The market's open, Minnesota -3 and 46.5. By the way, the look ahead total was 46. 3 -120, 46.5. And looking this morning, basically 3 total has been bet up. So the look ahead was 46. Now we're seeing 48s for the Minnesota LA total. Lots of over money has shown from the open. Now the Vikings, look, they weren't going to go 17-0. They had a pretty good game yesterday. I thought Sam Darnold was excellent in that contest, but he was sacked 4 times. The running game went for 6.6 yards per carry, which speaks to the strength of the offensive line. They had a defensive touchdown, Ivan Pace's 36-yard fumble return, but they still lost. So when you have a defensive touchdown and you still lose, that tells you maybe don't get too excited. Of course, they lost thanks to a missed 2-point conversion, the single most important play in football. Jefferson after the game, quote, got to give them kudos, but we definitely hurt ourselves in plenty of ways. So off a bye, play on Sunday. Now it's a short week here. The Rams were +3 in turnovers. They had a defensive touchdown. They didn't allow a single touchdown, and they still didn't cover the point spread. So that tells us from a market standpoint, when you have a scenario where a team is +3, scores on defense, doesn't give up a TD, and still don't cover, you're going to see markets not excited about that team, of course. And all 20 points they scored in that game came off of turnovers. That being said, Sean McVay hinted that Cooper Kupp was going to play one of these 2 games that they had. I mean, they have 2 games in a 5-day span. He missed the game on Sunday. We could see LA's best weapon back in the fold on Thursday night against Minnesota, and that could be a difference in this ballgame, something worth paying attention to, because the Cooper Kupp status will likely affect this point spread. If he's playing, we'll see Rams money. If he's not, we'll see Vikings money, at least from the wise guys.
Teddy, I love the breakdown, man. Great start here. You bring up Cooper Kupp, but at the same time, a lot of people out there say, and I think there's some credence to this, outside of quarterback position in the NFL, how much does one player move the line? In your opinion, would you bring that back into focus, or is Cooper Kupp such a big part of this offense that it does matter?
So if you looked at the Buffalo Bills yesterday with Amari Cooper, you just brought in one guy. It's his first game with the team, but it affected every other pass play that they had, or affected every receiver. And all of a sudden, Buffalo's receivers are open because they have to pay attention to this one guy. Cooper Kupp, from a point spread standpoint, he's not worth a half a point. He's not worth a ton. He's worth something, but not a lot. But when you talk about a Rams offense with Cooper Kupp on the field who has to be defended, it makes their entire receiving core better. So I think the impact might be greater than the half point or point that the markets will give for Kupp. That can happen with playmakers on the outside.
Sure, I'm picking up what you're laying down. Makes total sense, guys. We'll flip the script here to Sunday, October 27th. We get top of the card. We're going down in rotation order. If you check out Wager Talk Live odds screen, it's those little numbers next to the team name, 263, 264, 10 a.m. Pacific kick, Tennessee and Detroit. We are seeing the Lions -11 in the hook as the home favorite, 45.5 being the total in the Motor City, TC.
The look-ahead line was Detroit -9.5, total of 45. My powering number came out to 10 3/4, so I split it between 10.5 and 11. And we've seen the markets open 11.5, 46.5 last night. And that's basically the number right now. We've seen a little bit of under money down to 45.5/46. But total of the side sitting in that 11.5 range for Detroit. So we got double-digit chalk here. Tennessee had that 10-0 early lead yesterday, and then they got outscored 27-0 for the rest of the game. The offense gained 4.3 yards per play. The defense allowed 7.2 yards per play. The offense turned the ball over twice. Defense didn't force any turnovers. So you're getting outgained by 3 yards of play and losing the turnover battle. Those are bad numbers, and the markets are reflecting that. And I can't sugarcoat it. All right, you need a basic level of competence at quarterback. You don't need to have Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Those guys are elite. But your Geno Smiths, your Brock Purdy's, your Jared Goffs, whatever, good, decent quarterbacks, those teams are fine. The Titans don't have that. They don't have that with their starter. They don't have that with their backup. Will Levis has been terrible. Mason Rudolph was awful in that ballgame. Awful. Rudolph was holding the ball way too long. Every completed pass with a check down. They got Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, and DeAndre Hopkins. That trio, less than 85 combined yards. So, they can't get the ball to the receiver. They can't get the ball to the playmaker. Coach Callahan, after the game, we went backwards on offense. We had penalties. We had a million issues, quarterback hits, all those things. Not good enough. We didn't do a good enough job to do anything in the second half worthwhile. It's frustrating. Got to find an answer. It's hard to find an answer with the quarterbacks that Tennessee is trotting out these days. That being said, look, Detroit allowed a fumble return touchdown. They gave up 6.6 yards per carry. Only 5 incomplete passes for Sam Darnold the whole game. And Detroit won, all right, because Jared Goff only threw 3 incomplete passes. Jared Goff has now, the last 3 games, he has 140-plus passer rating. Other quarterbacks who've done that, the only quarterbacks in NFL history who've done that, Aaron Rodgers in 2011, Kurt Warner in 1999, and Roger Staubach in 1971. That's where Jared Goff has been, all right? They gained 7.0 yards per play against a Brian Flores defense yesterday. That's impressive. Dan Campbell. He doesn't get frazzled. He's tough. He's competitive. He's reliable. They fell behind early, rallied. They blew a fourth quarter lead, rallied. That was a gutty win. That being said, when you talk about spots, Detroit is off Dallas, a blowout, very satisfying. Minnesota, hard-fought, gutty win. They've got Green Bay on deck, and this is their only home game in a 5-week span. Looks to me like an exhale spot for the home favorite. I will not be laying with Detroit this week.
Interesting take there, Teddy. I like it, man. All right, second game up, we got the second highest point spread on the card is the 2 biggest point spreads right here at the top on Sunday, 265, 266, Baltimore and Cleveland Ravens. Split line here, -9 and a hook, -10, depending where we're shopping, 42, 42.5 being the total. Of course, keep in mind, guys, Ravens playing Monday Night Football here. This does look, with the big point spread, Teddy, if you like them tonight, maybe look to make 2 bets. If you're going against them, maybe look to bet two times against them. I'll throw it over to you here. Baltimore at Cleveland, next game up.
If the Ravens look really good tonight, the Browns are crashing in the markets right now, and deservedly so. 9.5 here could well be 10, 10.5 tomorrow. But it's not one of those where if you bet the one, you have to bet the other one. It's around. We're not talking around key numbers in this one either necessarily. Look headline here was Baltimore 9.5, total of 42. My powering number came out to 9 3/4, so I call it 9.5/10. The markets opened 10/10.5 last night, 42.5. We've seen a little bit of under money. We've seen a little bit of Browns money. And of course, from a spot standpoint, Baltimore will be coming off a short week, off a huge Monday night game. It's not necessarily an optimal spot in a division game to lay this price. And the Browns, for as awful as their offense was yesterday, and their special teams, they allowed a kick return touchdown on the opening play of the game. There was no quit from that defense. I thought I was really impressed with their defensive intensity throughout the course of that game, despite everything that went wrong offensively. And again, when you're having bad plays on special teams, Deshaun Watson, obviously with the non-contact injury, getting booed as he went off the field. Then DTR comes in the game, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's no good. We know that already. 11 of 24 for 82 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. He left the game with a finger injury. And then Jameis came in, who was benched demoted from second string to third string prior to the game. And on the final drive, he threw for 67 yards. Nick Chubb returned, huge for Cleveland. 11 carries, 22 yards. 10 penalties for 80 yards, too. The markets are crashing on Cleveland. All right. And that being said, we talk about home field edge. Basically, when Deshaun got booed when he got hurt, that pissed a lot of people off. Some of the post-game quotes, and I'm not going to read them all, but, Myles Garrett. The man is not perfect. He doesn't need to be. None of us are expected to be perfect. Can't judge him for what he does off the field or on the field because I can't throw stones from my glass house. We should be ashamed of ourselves as Browns and as fans to boo anyone in their downfall. Could be a season-altering, career-altering injury. Do not forget that Cleveland has to pay Deshaun Watson next year and the year after, everything fully guaranteed. There's no escaping the Deshaun Watson contract, and it's going to affect the franchise indefinitely, which is at least part of the reason why the markets are crashing on Cleveland right now. There are no quick fixes for the Browns, and that's certainly a concern in the betting marketplace.
We'll go from northern Ohio to the Sunshine State up next here, Teddy. Green Bay at Jacksonville. We are seeing the Packers -4 and a hook as the road favorite, 49 being the total. Packers at Jaguars up next.
Look at line here, 3.5 and 45. My powering number came 4.5. The market's open 4.5 and 49. So we've seen a significant adjustment to the over for this contest. And considering how well Green Bay played defensively yesterday, I'm not sure. Their pass defense was phenomenal. The defense allowed only 3.4 yards per play in that game. C.J. Stroud was just 10 of 21, a career low 86 yards. He was sacked 4 times. Jeff Hafley. I told him I want to the defense coordinator for Green Bay. I told him I want to lead the league in 2 things: takeaways and effort. And the Packers, obviously, they've been a turnover team. All right, they led the NFL in turnover margin coming into this last game. They were -3 in turnovers and still won the game straight up. Houston got 16 points off 3 Packers turnovers in that contest. So, I'm pretty high on Green Bay. The markets are pretty high on Green Bay. Jacksonville is a team that everyone is having a hard time getting a read on right now. Look, the weapon stepped up for the Jags in the win in London. Tank Bigsby was really good in that ballgame. The rookie, Brian Thomas Jr., was really good in that ballgame. They had a clean game, no turnovers, only 4 penalties for 24 yards. They were down early. They handled adversity. These are all positive signs for the Jags. Doug Peterson, this is what our team can do. We were down 10, but no one was like, here we go again, or defeated or had negative thoughts. It was just one play at a time. Bigsby, quote, adversity shows real character. It shows who you can be and who you are. Today we showed what this can be. Let's keep going. Then again, before we give the Jags too much credit, it was the Patriots, and the Jags got to stay in London all week. New England had to travel there, and they had a punt return touchdown that made things much easier. Jacksonville, if they're good, we're going to make money with them over the next month. Look who they play: Green Bay, Philly, Minnesota, Detroit, Houston, their next 5 ball games. All 5 step up in class. It could get ugly for the Jags if they can't maintain the momentum from last week.
We get Indianapolis and Houston up next, 269-270. We are seeing the Texans -6 in the hook pretty much across the board. There is some juice on that 6.5. 46.5 being the total. Colts at Texans. Next one up, TC.
Yeah, line Houston -6.5, total 48.5. My priority number only came Houston -5 in that ball game. Opened 6 and 47 last night, and we're seeing 6.5 and 46.5/46 today. So a little bit of Houston money, a little bit of under money, market wide off the opener. I just talked about how Stroud's coming off the worst game of his career, 10 of 21 for 86 yards, sacked 4 times. The offense gained only 197 total yards, 3.4 yards per play. The offensive line was not good. Stroud was pressured on 48% of his dropbacks. He's been sacked 20 times already this season. That's top 5 in the NFL. D'Amico Ryans, quote, obviously we didn't pass the ball well all day, so it wasn't good all the way around. We ran the ball well. I thought Joe did a good job running the football, Joe Mixon. We needed to pass it. It was not good enough, starting with the protection. If we can't protect, then it's going to be difficult for the quarterback to make the play. So we're talking about a team that was +3 in turnovers and lost straight up. But defensive injuries are a problem for the Texans right now. They didn't have 5 defensive starters last week, as well as Nico Collins and Steve Sims, who returns punts, and they suffered additional injuries during the game. So the markets have moved to Houston this morning. I'll have to check that Texans injury report today, but yesterday they had some injury concerns all over the defensive side of the football. When it comes to Indy, look, the defense gave up 188 rushing yards to Miami, but Waddle and Hill didn't beat them. It's a bizarre scenario for Indy, okay? They're clearly better on offense with Joe Flacco right now. If you're like, I want to make the playoffs this year, Flacco's your QB over Anthony Richardson. But Richardson has such a unique skill set. And this isn't a Super Bowl team this year. Richardson's running/throwing combination, he's like Mike Vick 2.0. I mean, his arm is ridiculous. His feet are ridiculous. He could become a truly elite quarterback, but he's not elite now. You have to play the guy, not the aging veteran. I get it. Yesterday, 10 of 24, 129 yards. He wasn't good. He missed a bunch of throw. That said, he was the team's leading rusher, and Indy did rally back from a 10-0 deficit, scoring the last 16 points of the game. They settled for 2 late field goals from first and goal scenarios. Shane Steichen, obviously we want to finish with touchdowns down there. We got to be better. I got to be better on play calls, but we found a way to win the game, and that's what matters. Colts, they're not doing anything easily, but they're playing everyone close. Worth noting in this point spread range.
Love the breakdown, TC. Michael Vick 2.0. Oh, kind of aggressive in there. I don't know. Let us know in the comments. Teddy getting too aggressive on that one?
Well, so he has the potential. When you look at his skill set, All right. I don't know that Anthony Richards ever going to be Michael Vick, but the ability to throw the ball 70 yards downfield on a dime, just boom, the zip on the ball and the speed with the legs to outrun everyone. The quarterback that comes to mind is Michael Vick,
I see where you're going with that. The touch on the football, though, is such a big part of playing the quarterback position. He doesn't have that, what
Nope.
Vic had.
Not yet.
No. Can he learn it? Maybe. No, just strong comments there. Love it, TC. We got Arizona and Miami up next. Dolphins -3, -3.5. Kind of a split line here. It sounds like an important one here, Teddy. 48.5 being the total. Of course, Arizona playing one of the Monday Night Football games here. Cardinals at Dolphins from Hard Rock.
So the markets don't know if Tua's playing or not. This is a Tua might play. All right. He comes off IR this week. Look ahead line, Miami -449. I made two powering numbers, one with Tua, one without him. I got Arizona -1 if Tua doesn't play, and I got Miami -6.5 if Tua does. I think he's worth more than a touchdown. The markets opened 3.5 and 48 last night, and obviously today we're seeing 3/3.5 and 48/40. Actually, it's kind of a split. There's 47.5, there's 48, there's 48.5 right now. The Cardinals playing Monday Night Football against the Chargers. If they look good, they will get some betting market support. For Miami, look, I don't know that the switch is just going to get flip on for Miami if Tua comes back. All right. Tyler Huntley was not good. 6.7 yards per pass. I mean, he got hurt again, like he has with every previous opportunity. He hurt his throwing shoulder. Tim Boyle came in off the bench. The team didn't score a point with him on the field. Just like the last time he played in the Seattle game where the team couldn't score a point with him on the field. Tua's worth a touchdown plus. So they ran the ball 40 carries, 188 yards yesterday. When you run for 188 yards in an NFL game, you better score more than 10 points. You're supposed to win. What's happening? Well, Jason Sanders missing field goals. This is the NFL's lowest scoring team. Hill and Waddle combined for 2 catches yesterday. Mike McDaniel, after the game, talking about his 2-star receivers, quote, "They were phenomenal all game. They've looked at their role in an expansive way. When you run the ball 40 times, it does minimize your opportunities." Again, this team is dead last in the NFL in scoring since Tua got hurt. And the report I read last night, quote, "Don't expect the team to reveal Tagovailoa's game status until they have to, even if that means holding off on a public announcement until Friday or Saturday." We're not going to hear anything all week from Miami about whether Tua is going to play. So this is not a game necessarily that you want to get down on until we get accurate info. Because, like I said, my number says a 7.5-point difference. Assuming Miami can flip that switch, the Dolphins have played pretty shitty football ever since he got hurt, and I'm not convinced the switch gets flipped. I won't be laying with Miami if Tua comes back. Not even maybe.
Teddy, we got the last 1 o'clock Eastern kick up next. 273, 274, Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Buccaneers -2.5 as the home favorite. Of course, another team playing Monday Night Football here. 48 being the total. The Dirty Birds visiting Tampa here. -2.5. -3 is out there. That's the Bucs as the home favorite, Teddy.
Yeah, though actually, if we're going in rotation order, there are 2 later games that have been moved to 10 o'clock. There's been some adjusting on the schedule this week, so it's not the last 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern game. Whatever, it's not really a big point. Not even know why I'm bothering to correct you on it. There are a couple other games that start as well. Let's talk about Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Look at line, Bucks -2.5, 49.5. My powering number, Tampa -1.5 going into Monday Night Football. The markets opened. There were 3s last night, /2.5, 49 as the total. We've seen a little bit of under money. Someone took out the 3s basically, and we're looking at 2.5s across. But there weren't many 3s last night. It was a split line, 3 and 2.5. But we're looking at 2.5 today, and I don't disagree with that assessment. I mean, I casted the winning bet with Seattle yesterday, and the bet was clear. It was it was just a classic spot. One team off 3 straight losses with extra time. The other team off 3 straight division wins with another division game on deck. Atlanta was flat, and it showed. They ran effectively all day. They went 8 of 15 on third downs, 2 of 2 on fourth downs. They scored 2 touchdowns with 2 red zone drives. But They turned the ball over 3 times. The defense created none. They had a bunch of bad penalties to keep Seattle drives alive. 9 penalties, 72 yards. And the biggest play of the game was Kirk Cousins' sack fumble return for a touchdown, essentially ended that contest. That being said, Cousins, a tough day at the office. Pro football has a way of testing you like that. We even saw Michael Penix get in the game with some time. But Atlanta's got a big concern right now when it comes to their pass rush. They only have 6 sacks in the season. That's tied for the lowest total in the NFL. The pass rush win rate is near the bottom of the league. Defense coordinator Jimmy Lake said everything's on the right track, but it didn't really look that way. And Seattle had a 4th stringer at right tackle. They couldn't take advantage of this yesterday. That's certainly a concern for this better. We'll see how the Bucs look on Monday Night Football. If Tampa wins and covers tonight, this game could easily be 3, not 2.5. Although I still think we'll see market support for the Falcons. There's a lot of talent on Atlanta. And I think the markets will look to back them off a loss. So even if the Bucs look good tonight, I'm not convinced. It could be 3, but I wouldn't make a big wager on it. I'll just leave it at that. That's my opinion. It's not something I'm very confident in.
Sure, Teddy, as we'll move to the afternoon kick up next. 275-276. Interesting one here. 2 good young quarterbacks going at it. Chicago and Washington. The Bears, -1 road favorites. Might be a split line. Yeah, it's -1. That's the Bears as the road favorite. Teddy, 46 and a hook being the total in our nation's capital.
Yeah, I got to find my notes for this because I think I messed myself up. So there we go. Bears Commanders. I don't know, but finding it is a different story. Usually I go bang, bang, bang just in rotation order, but apparently I screwed up. Look ahead line here, Washington -2.5, total of 48. My powering number, Washington 2. The markets open the Bears 1-2, but I'm assuming Jaden Daniels is going to be fine. I'm not sure the markets are assuming that just yet. The Bears are coming off a bye. It's their first 3-game winning streak since 2020. Here's a last quote from Keenan Allen talking about Caleb Williams prior to the bye when they won in London. When he's in a groove like that and all the balls are catchable, it's pretty easy to play receiver. Week in, week out, he gets better. Obviously, when we pick up the tempo, he's a lot more comfortable. He's able to see things faster, and defenses can't do all the moving around. That is an overquote for this better for sure, but I don't know that I want Chicago off 3 satisfying wins and a bye. Washington's freaking good. All right, I talked about on Bet on It a few weeks ago why I wasn't selling the Commanders after their hot start. A lot of times it's buy. I'm doing my just a tip stock watch. I'm talking about one team that I'm looking to buy or looking to sell for a period of time, not just for one game. And I'm like, I'm not selling Washington off their hot start. I think they're real. It was complete domination yesterday. The game was over by halftime. They hung a 40-burger. They had 214 yards on the ground. Marcus Mariota had 200 yards through the air. He only got sacked once. 6.7 yards for play on offense, 4.2 yards play on defense. First downs, 26-10. The defense is playing well. Dan Quinn's got that. Now, obviously, Daniels left the game with a rib injury. His mother posted on social media, quote, he's fine. And he spent the second half on the bench chatting and laughing with his teammates. So I have to assume that Daniels is going to play here. And if Daniel plays, my powering number says Chicago's got no business being the favorite for whatever that's worth. Not no business. I mean, what, a -1, a -2, but that's not the favorite. So my number with a healthy Daniels says Washington is the play at this number.
In Teddy, 46, that seems a little low to me, man. Would you talk me off the over?
No. But the thing is, Washington's defense is getting better. Dan Quinn is coaching them up. That looked like an awful defense, and then it looked like a mediocre defense, and now it's Carolina. You don't want to make too much of it. But yes, I would lean over. I would expect the markets to move over on this one as well.
All right, Teddy, back to play. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Got to wait on that, I guess. Back to the 10 a.m. Pacific kicks here as the NFL scheduling looking to throw us off in the NFL opening line report. But hey, we're back at it. New York Jets, New England Patriots here. -7. There is a -7.5 out there. That's the Jets as the road favorite. 41 in the hook being the total. Patriots not getting the bye after London. Maybe something to throw in there. So it's Jets at Patriots, TC.
Yeah, my powering number, look ahead number was Jets 7, 38.5. My powering number is Jets 6.5. for the game. We're seeing 7s and even some 7.5s out there this morning. Total 41/41.5. Drake May, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 7.5 yards per pass attempt, 9 different receivers caught a pass. These are all very positive signs for New England. There's nothing positive right now for the Pats defense. I would call them maybe one of the most disappointing units in the league. They've had 7 different starting offensive line combinations the first 7 games. No continuity there. They're missing key defenders. Christian Barmore's out. Juwan Bentley's out. Jabril Pepper's out. But New England is what they are. They're bottom feeder. All right. The offense is 15 carries for 38 yards. And on defense, the Jags ran on 16 consecutive plays at one point. 171 rushing yards allowed. They allowed a punt return touchdown too. Then after the game, Coach Mayo, we're a soft football team across the board. We talk about what makes a tough football team, and that's being able to run the ball, being able to stop the run, and that's being able to cover kicks. We did none of those. I've heard reports. I read a couple of reports that there are issues in the locker room. The first-time head coach has lost his team already. Throwing the team under the bus like that can't be good for team chemistry. Although, if you want to lay a touchdown with the Jets right now, that's the option you have in this ball game. And I don't know that I'm going to ask the Jets just yet to win by more. I don't think the Jets' season is over, but I'm not comfortable asking that team to win by more than a touchdown just now. They're not good enough on either side of the ball.
Sure, Teddy. Next one up. I heard you talking about the Seahawks here. Interesting handicap for this one. We get the Buffalo Bills, Seattle Seahawks. Bills minus 3-point road favorites, 48.5 being the total. This is an afternoon kick, Pacific Northwest. Bills at Seahawks. Next up, TC.
Yeah, look headline 347.5. My powering number 3. The market's open 3-49 last night, and now we're seeing basically 3-48 today. So from a point spread perspective, everything says 3. My powering says 3. Look ahead said 3. The opener said 3. I don't think this number is necessarily going to move off of 3. Total-wise, we have seen a little bit of bounce, both up and down. I'm not convinced. I'm not comfortable saying, all right, it's going to move from here. So there's no urgency for betting this ballgame, although the DK Metcalf injury could be a concern. He was carted off the field after he had a huge game. That being said, the post-game quote from Mike McDonald, we're optimistic at this point. It doesn't look too bad. The defense had a fumble return touchdown for Seattle. They had forced 3 turnovers. They only forced 1 the first 5 weeks. The rookie defensive tackle, Byron Murphy, their number 1 pick, he returned to the lineup. That's a defense that had lost 5 players to injuries the last couple of weeks. So getting Murphy back was a huge deal. Their stated goal going into the Falcons game was to run the football. They did okay, 26 for 103. They got gash on the ground defensively. 3 of their top 5 were out in the secondary. They were coached up really well. I'm going to give, again, Mike McDonald's a former Ravens defense coordinator, credit. That defense was coached up in impressive fashion in that ball game, which, again, when you talk about things that we like, that's something that I pay attention to moving forward. When we look at the Bills piece of the equation, look, Buffalo was pretty impressive yesterday in the sense of all of a sudden that offense is working. You had one piece of the puzzle. And it was a tough spot for Buffalo. They're coming off Baltimore, Houston, the Jets on Monday Night Football, all on the road. They're on a short week off a satisfying divisional win. They're down 10-0 early. The rest of the game, Bills 27-0. And adding Amari Cooper to the mix, all of a sudden, Keon Coleman's open, Khalil Shakir's open. Now Josh Allen is weapon, 9.8 yards per pass attempt against the Titans. They're +2 in turnovers. They outgained him by almost 3 yards a play. Amari Cooper, only 18 snaps, but he made a difference. Josh Allen's quote, anytime you have a player of his caliber, he demands extra attention. If you don't, we're probably going to throw him the ball. Our guys get a good job of getting open, making plays. Josh Allen is now 68-32 as a starter. That's the 6th most wins in a quarterback's first 100 starts. He's tied with Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers in that sense. So those are some pretty good names to be associated with over the first 100 starts of your career for Josh Allen.
The old Brett Favre comparison. Guys, let us know in the comments where you agree, where you disagree. All is welcome. Feel free to fire out any questions. We got some from last week's show we'll get to at the end of the show if we have time. I think we will. And also want to give you a reminder, the most action-packed month for under $8 per day. You can get Teddy covers. You can get Drew Martin, any handicapper out there under $8 per day. And, of course, with college basketball starting in early November, all of that is included. NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, NHL, all of the sports, you get them for under $8 per day. That is going live tonight at midnight. So if you're watching on replay, check out Teddy Covers, Drew Martin, most action-packed month for under $8 per day. Huge savings there. WagerTalk.com. Next game up, Teddy, we get New Orleans and the LA Chargers. 39 in the hook being the total. Chargers -7.5 is the home favorite.
Yeah, look at line. Chargers -6, total of 40.5. My powering numbers, Chargers -7.5. The markets opened split line 7/7.5 last night, total 39.5. And basically I'm seeing 7.5s or even some 8.5s out there on the Chargers right now. Look at the free Wager Talk live odds screen. And it's all money coming against the Saints. I mean, the Saints, again, out-yarded 6.4 yards per play to 4.1 on Thursday night. The defense, 33 carries, 227 rushing yards allowed against Denver. All right. They've given up 502 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns the last 2 games. 332 of those 502 rushing yards came before first contact. Now, they will have had a little bit of extra time. They may get healthier. I don't know that they are. I don't know if Carr is going to be back this week. They're playing with a rookie quarterback. I don't know if Shaheen or Olave are going to be back at receiver. Taysom Hill, that's their 3 best weapons. And they're all hurt. They're missing 3 starting linemen, McCoy and Ruiz. I don't think are coming back this week. Worth paying attention to. And, oh, by the way, they had more injuries on Thursday night. Nick Saldivieri left the offensive line. Marshawn Lattimore left with a hamstring injury. Paulson Adebayo was carted off the field with an air cast on his leg and taken to the hospital. Broken femur out for the year. These are real killer injuries. Killer. And when we talk about New Orleans, maybe it's good to get out of town. The Superdome was empty by the fourth quarter. Dennis Allen, it's been disappointing. Injuries play a part of it, but we got to find a way to play better. We're making mistakes we shouldn't be making. Us coaches and players, we've got to figure it out. Of course, Spencer Rattler was sacked 6 times in that ballgame. This quote stood out to me from Sean Payton after the game, after Denver had just destroyed New Orleans on Thursday night. Quote, "I felt bad. New Orleans is nicked up, got a lot of injuries." That's Payton, making excuses for his former assistant. The Saints are in a world of hurt right now, and they're a one-way team for me. I'm not looking to expect New Orleans to bounce back from their 5-game skid against team like the Chargers. The Chargers will be coming off a short week on Monday Night Football against Arizona. If they look good in this ballgame, I don't think this line gets all the way up to 10. If they look crappy in this game, unless the Saints injury report gets a whole lot better, I don't think it gets below 7. So when it comes to must bet, if you like the Chargers tonight, bet them the next week. This isn't one of those scenarios where you have to bet them twice or bet against them twice, in my opinion.
Makes sense, Teddy, as we'll head back to the early kicks here. 283-284, Philadelphia and Cincinnati. 47 in the hook being the total in the Queen City. We are seeing Cincinnati -2.5 with juice. There is a -3 out there as the home favorite hosting the Eagles.
Yeah, you got to give me a minute. I'm trying to find it. I know I wrote these 2 teams. I got them all in here. But it's
Teddy, let me step in here. What's the NFL doing with this? I mean, this is the first week that this happened. Is this because of like flex scheduling? Do you know why they're moving games around? Because I don't.
Because I don't know exactly why they're doing it. I know that in general they want some of the marquee matchups for the 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 starts, but nothing's changing in that regard for this game. I don't know exactly why the NFL has done it.
Okay.
So when I know an answer, I'll give it to you. If I don't know, I ain't going to bullshit you, Drew. I don't know why the league is doing it. I could care less. Bottom line, and I could because it's give me the game. Whether it starts at 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock doesn't matter in that regard, at least in terms of the handicap. Look headline here, Cincy -3, total of 51. My powering number says pick 'em. Markets don't agree. Markets open 2.5 for Cincy last night. I'm seeing 2.5 with juice today. Total 48. The Bengals stunk again yesterday. All right. They have 3 wins this year. The Giants, the Panthers, and the Browns. They're not exactly beating good offensive teams. I know their defensive numbers have been better the last 2 weeks. They played 2 offenses that can't move the football. All right. Now, positives, they didn't turn the ball over, and they didn't have a kick return touchdown in the opening play of the games. They played with a lead the whole way. But we're talking about 12 first downs for Cincy, 2 of 13 on third downs, 0 for 1 on fourth downs, 223 total yards, and 4.2 yards per play. So their offense isn't good, and I don't trust their defense. So that's why my number's off from the markets. The Eagles only allowed 2.2 yards per play. And maybe it's the flat spot after the big divisional win and the Saquon Barkley's return and all of that. Potentially. And the Eagles aren't a team people are very excited about right now. That being said, they were able to control the line of scrimmage against the Giants, even on the offensive side of the football, against that strong Giants defensive line. 45 rushes, 269 yards, 6.0 yards per carry. Now, Jalen Hurts only had 70 net passing yards. He was sacked 4 times, only dropped back 4. They only threw 14 passes. Devonta Smith was a complete non-factor, 1 catch for 2 yards. But again, they were only 1 of 13 on third downs. They were 3 of 3 on fourth downs. And it's worth noting how important that tush push is. Every time the Eagles are 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, they get a first down. Other teams aren't so good at that. Philly is. But the story of the game was Philadelphia's defense able to control the line of scrimmage. Giants had 49 pass attempts for 43 net yards, sacked 8 times. When you're allowing 2.2 yards per play, you're coming off a bye and come up with a performance like that, even against the G-men, it's worth paying attention to. Philly, clearly on my short list when it comes to this week's card. I'm hoping I can catch a 3.
Teddy, I like the breakdown, man. I totally agree with you. That push about a 3rd and 1, that's like a center quarterback. Even the guards, it's a skill that is something that you need to kind of handicap here, guys. With the Eagles, we get Kansas City. Yeah, go ahead.
I watched I think I watched Arizona try to do it. I watched some team try to do it, and nobody does it as well as Philly. You know, You see everyone else get they're trying to do the tush push. Oh yeah, we could do it. Just nuh-uh. The Eagles have a different methodology for it, and it works like better than anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was getting at. It's a skill. I mean, from playing the quarterback position, doing that is something you need to be in rhythm with your center, and it's definitely working for the Eagles. Moving down the list, 285, 286, Kansas City and Las Vegas. We're seeing the Chiefs, another double-digit favorite here at most shops right now. There is a -9.5, but consensus line is -10. Chiefs is the road favorite, 42 being the total. Chiefs at Raiders, not far from where you're talking right now, TC.
Nope, just down the road. When they score a touchdown, I don't hear it in the backyard because it's an indoor stadium. But I live less than 5 miles from Allegiant, I think, or maybe it's 5 miles away. I don't know. I don't walk there very often. Bottom line, look headline: Kansas City -10, 43.5. My powering number: Kansas City -10. The market's open 10 and 42, and we've seen pretty much them hold at that number. 10. I'm seeing 41.5 right now. Excuse me, for the Chiefs and the Raiders. Look, I mean, Kansas City, how do we say it? There's some issues right now. I mean, Andy Reid's still pretty darn good off a bye, but right now, Patrick Mahomes made the play of the game with that scramble. The score was 14-12. The game was still very much in doubt. But for the season, Patrick Mahomes has thrown 6 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. And the Chiefs are undefeated. What does that tell us? Again, Mahomes ended the season with a 3.5-1 touchdown to interception ratio in his career. That tells us 2 things. One, they're able to run the football. They had 184 rushing yards yesterday against San Fran's defense. 2, their defense is incredible. And Kansas City's defense still isn't getting the credit that they deserve. They shut down San Fran yesterday. Obviously, that the 49ers had some injury concerns, but what Kansas City's been doing defensively for the last 2 years has been overrated because they have a marquee quarterback. And of course, KC, who'd been struggling in the red zone all year, they did really good in the red zone yesterday, 4 touchdowns in 5 trips against the 49ers. For the Raiders, look, the defense is, they got their 3rd takeaway of the year against the Rams. It's the fewest in Raiders history through 7 games. The offense turned the ball over 4 times. One of them returned for a touchdown. They finished -3. They still didn't score a touchdown in the game and covered, which tells us a little bit about the Rams and a little bit about where the Raiders are being power rated right now. But again, I mean, the injuries, Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb. Doesn't look like he's going to be available for a while. Gardner Minshew came in 15 to 34 for $154, 34 passes for $154, which is all checkdowns, no touchdowns, 3 picks. Minshew did leave Vegas on 5 scoring drives. That's thing that they're all field goal drives. They ran for 4.2 yards a carry, allowed 4.1. Now it's a 3-game losing streak. There's some positive things for the Raiders. 10 penalties wasn't one of them. I'm not convinced that they've given Kansas City real battles. And they're certainly it's a Chiefs team that isn't easily winning by margin. They're coming off a pretty satisfying victory. Lots of situational things pointing towards the Raiders in this matchup. But when it comes to actual personnel matchups on the field, I don't know that bodes well for Las Vegas.
Next one up, Carolina and Denver. Something only a sports bettor can love. And Broncos and Panthers fans. We get Broncos -7.5 as the home favorite. 43 in the hook being the total. Interesting handicap though, Teddy. 7 in the hook, -8 is out there on the Broncos as the home favorite.
Yeah, here's your adjustment from the look-ahead line. Denver, look-ahead line, 4.5, 43. My powering number is 9. The market's open 7.5, 42.5. We've seen over money and Broncos money. As you said, there are 8s popping up from the 7.5. Carolina's a really hard team to put money on right now. I mean, their defense is falling apart. The offense is no better. Andy Dalton, 16 pass attempts for 93 yards, 2 picks, no touchdown, sacked twice. Bryce Young came in for the final drive. Ooh, exciting. Chuba Hubbard has been a spark for them. Only 17 carries, 52 yards yesterday. Again, outgained 4.2 yards per play to 6.7. That's 2.5 yards per play. They were worse. First downs, they were outgained 26 to 10. They're -2 in turnovers. You're not going to win a whole lot of games or cover a whole lot of point spreads given that statistical profile. Denver will have a extra time to prepare after playing on Thursday night. They outgained the Saints by 2.3 yards per play. Rookie quarterback, short week, road chalk, no problem on the road. This defense for Denver, and look, I've got a season win bet on the Broncos under. I'm going to lose that bet. The defense is way better than I thought it would be. Way better. And when I lose a season win bet, I like to make money on the team that I lose it with. I'm like, all right, if I'm going to lose money on the future, I want to make money with them because I recognize they're better. 28 sacks in 7 games. They scored 2 defensive touchdowns. They have 2 safeties. 33 carries for 227 rushing yards against the Saints, not counting the last 2 knees. There are a lot of positive things going on in Denver right now. They've got a winning record, and they're facing the worst team in the league.
We got Sunday Night Football up next. We'll hit the Monday Nighter and take some question, guys, so fire away in the live chat. Also, comments below for next week's show. We get Dallas and San Francisco, 2 big brands here, TC. Likely a lot of tickets written. -5 in the hook is the consensus line. That is the 49ers as the home favorite. 48 being the total. Cowboys at Niners, Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, and we appreciate the like so much. We appreciate the follow so much. And the comments especially. Both Drew and I are in there every week. I try to get in there at least twice to answer every single comment that someone puts. Someone takes time out of their busy day to write something down. I'll do my best to respond to it. So thank you very much for all the comments we've been getting and all the positive response we get from this show every week. And of course, we're getting 10,000 plus views every week. So thank you so much. Appreciate all the likes and the follows. Look ahead line here. San Fran -6, total of 50. My powering number, I have it 3.25. So 3/3.5 for San Francisco. We had to downgrade them off the injury report from yesterday. Markets open 6 last night. I'm seeing some 5.5s and even 5s out there this morning. Total 48 last night. I'm seeing 47.5s popping up today. Certainly from a situational standpoint, you want Dallas off a bye. They had that loss to Detroit, and that game completely turned on one play. Dak Prescott threw an awful interception in the end zone, a terrible throw from a veteran quarterback. The game was 7-3 at the time. Dallas was threatening to take the lead, and they never threatened to take the lead again. Prescott got benched by the fourth quarter. They allowed 184 rushing yards to Detroit and gained only 53. They were -5 in turnovers. Defense didn't force any. They got outgained by almost 250 yards. I mean, it was the worst home loss since 1988 for Dallas. And right now, Dallas, I talk about the Saints getting booed off the field and the Superdome being empty. Dallas's home field, the first team this century to trail by 14 or more points at halftime in 4 consecutive home field games. They want to be on the road. Okay. 167 points allowed by Dallas, the third most in a 4-game home stretch in NFL history during that span. Now, the quotes pre-bye. Dak Prescott, quote, "I'm not a guy to hit the panic button. You never prepare for that or think that can happen the way it did today here at home again. Dropping 3 at home, a place we've been great. CeeDee Lamb, a loss is a loss. Obviously at home is terrible. Us not scoring in the moments, putting up 50 is even worse. As far as the confidence level, we've got time to regroup." I don't know if either of those to me is a real bet on quote for Dallas. That being said, guess what San Francisco is right now? They're a sub-500 team. Brock Purdy's off a no-touchdown, 3-interception game. The defense just allowed 184 rushing yards. Brandon Ayuk looks like he tore his ACL. Deebo Samuel wasn't able to play. Juwan Jennings suffered a hip injury last week. Their top receivers right now are Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, and a couple of rookies, and Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing. They're missing Dre Greenlaw on defense, and Talanoa Hufanga, and Jason Hargrave. Their special teams are bad right now. Every week we're seeing a special teams issue with San Fran. Give up a 55-yard punt return to Kansas City yesterday. They had a missed extra point from Carlson. These are issues and make me a little bit, I'm going to have to check that injury report when it comes to receivers. But if I'm playing this game, I don't want the favorite. I'll tell you that much. It'll be dog or pass for this better.
We'll flip the script here to Monday Night Football, October 28th, Monday Nighter. New York Giants, Pittsburgh Steelers. We are seeing the Steelers -6 in the hook as the home favorite, 36.5 the total in the Steel City, TC.
Yeah. So a look headline here was Pittsburgh 4.5 and 39. If you like the Steelers on Sunday night, you should have bet them for next week's Monday night as well. We talked about that as being a possibility last week. My powering number is Pittsburgh 7. The market's 6.5, and the total pretty low, 36.5. No one's expecting Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson threw up a bunch of, again, he's getting all this credit today for being great. Russell Wilson did something that Justin Fields didn't do, and that he's throwing up jump balls and letting his guys make catches. That being said, there was 3 or 4 catches last night. You're not going to count on those catches every time. Pickens had one. The tight end had one. There were a handful of ridiculous catches that made Wilson's numbers look really good. And he was, in a sense, he was better than Fields in that he took the downfield shots, and Fields was holding the ball too long. But Russell Wilson still, whatever. He's interesting to talk about. He certainly affected the power rate number for Pittsburgh, and the Steelers' defense is pretty darn good, which is going to be a problem for the Giants. It was a total embarrassment yesterday for the Giants. They didn't just get blown out at home. They got blown out at home against their closest rival with Saquon Barkley doing all the damage. They're winless in 4 games at home this year. They scored 1 touchdown in those 4 games. This is another team, home field advantage. We're giving the G-Men a 0 moving forward. They have 49 pass attempts for 43 net yards, sacked 8 times. They couldn't control the line of scrimmage at all again. The longest play of the day was a 14-yard gain to Malik Neighbors, who returned to the lineup. He's healthy. Drew Lock came in the fourth quarter. He didn't have any more success. Brian DeBall, quote, "We made a change in the fourth quarter. It was 20-3. We had 100 yards just to create a spark. Daniel will be the QB going forward." This is what Daniel Jones said. "I was frustrated. I didn't like the move, obviously. I'm just going to continue to prepare and try to play as well as I can." Look, the offensive line stunk. We had Andrew Thomas, who's hurt again out for the season. Josh Aduju started, and he was pretty awful. He allowed a couple of early sacks. And, of course, the Giants have this is unlike the situation that Cleveland had. Cleveland has no answers. Deshaun Watson's going to be their quarterback next year. He might be their quarterback the year after when it comes to the salary cap ramifications. The Giants, in theory, can dump Danny Jones after this year and draft his replacement without, they can get out of this contract. It's not a killer contract in that regard. So Jones is playing for his career right now. The last time he did this, before he signed the extension, the Giants ended up being a playoff team. This offensive line for the G-Men, however, is worse than the 2023 version. That could be a real problem against a Pittsburgh team that doesn't often win games by margins like they did last night, but has a type of defense that can give an offense like the Giants all kinds of trouble.
He's Teddy Covers, breaking it down for you each and every week on the Opening Line Report. Help him out. Smash that like button, comment below, guys. Fire away any questions. Also, remember the special we got. Check out Teddy Covers. Check out Drew Martin as well. The most action-packed month for under $8 per day. Of course, all the sports that are going in the month of November, you will get Teddy Covers' most action-packed month. Shout out to the live chat. Also, comments from last show. We'll hit a couple questions here. Fire away, guys, as we got Roger Long, Brian in the house, Priest Mahomes, Chris B, Have Cash, all you guys, B Daddy as well. Chris B asking, what's the handicap on the London comeback? Is it a fade, Teddy Covers? I was going to ask you, but I didn't know if we'd have enough time here. So Chris B helping us out. London handicap coming back?
It's certainly not a bet on. So I don't have numbers. I don't have hard numbers. That's a Ralph Michaels question, and I actually saw a little note to him that someone asked him that same question. So when Ralph gives the info, I will, what team's coming back off London, if he has it. But the best I could tell, it's from memory, and memory's not great in that. It hasn't been necessarily a bet against situation, but it's certainly not a positive one. Pretty close to neutral, if memory serves correct. But I'm going to wait for the real numbers from Ralph. Excellent question. The answer is I don't know. I think.
A few more here. Yeah, sure. A few more we can get in with some good ones. Sports Avenger. Teddy, I have a question about underdogs in the NFL. When you're looking at a game, what key factors stand out to you, Mitch, which makes you say this team has a real chance to win outright opposed to there's no chance? So maybe underdogs, does it change your handicap at all in the NFL, TC?
I mean, competence. that's the number one thing I'm looking for out of it. Yesterday I had Cleveland on my short list all week because I just didn't see Cincy laying. I just didn't see, can't lay with Cincy. And when it came to pulling the trigger, I didn't pull the trigger because I'm like, this team's not competent enough. So when you say, what do I want from a dog? I want a competent underdog. The teams that are awful, I'm really trying to stay away from. But when you're handicapping and you have two teams that where the dog is competent and the spot is right, Seattle. I had Seattle plus the points yesterday. Competent underdog, the spot was right. Boom. That's what I look for.
Fair enough, Teddy. We got Michael in the comments from last week's show. I get my notebook and pen out in class while the students are working. Not sure you should admit that, Michael, as a teacher, but thanks for watching there, buddy. Teddy, a question. You mentioned Tua playing or not playing, and you also said they're likely not going to say until they have to. I know the NFL, with fantasy football, also gambling, kind of has rules about the injury report. Do you know when they have to let people know, or can they just wait until they go out for the first series and we see if Tua is the quarterback or not? How does that work in the NFL?
They can call it a game time decision if they want to, but I would expect to hear something on Friday or Saturday. If he practices Wednesday, Thursday, we'll hear something. I would think we'll hear something on Friday, but I don't know. And like I said, my number between Tua and whatever dog shit they try to trot out there behind center that's not Tua is more than a touchdown. It's a completely different football team with Tua behind center. But even if Tua's back, they haven't been good. They've been a bad team. The defense hasn't been great. I've got my questions about the Dolphins moving forward. There's a chance there's a switch that can be flipped, but I can tell you flat, I'm not going to lay with Miami, even if Tua comes back game one. I have to see them play a competent game at something other than the quarterback position, because it hasn't just been bad quarterback play for Miami. There's been a lot of other problems during their extended stretch of subpar performances.
Thanks for the comment, Mike. We got another one from Mike B here. Teddy, when you give out your power rating line, does it take into account the home field?
Yes. And the home field edge goes from as little as 0, and I have New Orleans as a 0 now. I have Dallas as a 0. I have the Giants as a 0. And at most 2. Most, like standard home field, I'll give 1.5. But there is at least some variance in that regard. But yeah, the power rating number, that's all it has. Team A power rating, Team B power rating, and my home field. And that's where that number comes from. It doesn't have any situational factors, but I do try to factor in as many of the injuries as I can when creating my power rate numbers for the teams? Great question. Thanks for asking.
Sure. And Teddy, you bring up New Orleans, also the Dallas Cowboys you made reference to, and it's getting out of town. And I don't think you said it, but I think you were inferring that it could actually be maybe a bet on situation. It's something I use in Major League Baseball when a team's losing and then they leave town. Sometimes that team will go win on the road. Do you see that in the NFL?
Agree 100%. If they're competent, again, if there's a basic level of competence, leaving home for a team that's been struggling at home can be a very positive sign. And of course, you're getting extra points. It's a 3, 4, even 5 point market difference between the same two teams playing each other in different venues. So those extra points do matter. And yes, I would when you have a team that's struggling at home and getting booed off the field. The Sean Wyatt Cleveland getting booed off the field yesterday, that type of stuff. Hitting the highway is better than playing another home game. Absolutely. But that's not something that's going to come in any hard numbers. I'm not going to power rate that. I'm going to handicap that, and boom, that team's now on my short list, and let's pay attention to this team this week.
Makes sense, TC. We got the most action-packed month for under $8 per day. November is right around the corner, guys. You get every sport, every pick. Teddy covers, Drew Martin, great selections there, guys, under $8 a day. Huge savings with that package, the most action-packed month for under $8 per day. Teddy, I'll throw it over to you. Great show as always, man. Anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
Yeah, just 2 numbers I want to let you guys know about. I'm going to hype myself for a minute because I'm running good. Perfect NFL Sunday yesterday, 75% in the NFL over the last 4 weeks. So we're seeing things pretty clearly right now. And NBA starts tomorrow. NBA is probably my single favorite sport. Since 2022, counting every play every day, more than 500 and something plays, I've hit 58% in the NBA, and I'm up more than 220 units of profit. So it's a great time. If you want to get, I would say don't buy a play, buy a package. Yes, I'm in play on Monday Night Football tonight. Don't buy it. Use this 30-day all access and get on board for every play, every day at a bargain price. No coupon code needed. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the follows. And best of luck betting Week 8 NFL.
I second that, guys. He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. Smash that like button, comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Cash those tickets. We'll be back next week. Come back and join us, guys.